Upsurge of interest lately concerning pyramids. They're reputed to do everything from sharpen your razor blades to bumping up your corn crop. If you sleep inside one, pyramids are believed to increase your energy and enhance feelings of well-being. There's some evidence that injuries heal faster and that sick people recover faster if they spend time inside a pyramid. Most of these claims remain unsubstantiated by the scientific community, but too many people have seen and reported the benefits of pyramid power in their lives for us to believe that it is nonsense. Because pyramids have been around a lot longer than recorded history, a great deal of guesswork must go into any evaluation of their purpose and effect, and guesswork is something that science noticeably shuns. If it is true that the triangular shape of the pyramid has a mysterious, unharnessed power of its own, where does this power come from, and how can it affect our lives? The fact that a pyramid can sharpen a razor blade is not a major discovery of mankind. There are several effective ways to sharpen a blade edge, and it costs only a few cents to buy a new one anyway. So what difference does it make whether or not a pyramid can do the job? The important thing about the pyramid is not that it can sharpen a razor blade, but that the reason for its effectiveness cannot be determined by known science. Its power, or form of energy, operates outside of our knowledge. The obvious question is, if the pyramid works its mysterious forces upon the thin edge of a steel blade, what other unique capabilities does it have? Did the pyramid builders recognize this energy, and was this their purpose in its design? Perhaps. But we know so little about the pyramid that we cannot even say for certain who built them, nor when. Throughout recorded history, explorers and archaeologists have sought to discover who built the pyramids, and where did these brilliant, anonymous architects obtain the complex technology to execute their overwhelming structures. The design and engineering of the Great Pyramid is so perfect in every detail that even today, using the most advanced technological equipment the world has ever known, scientists cannot even measure the accuracy of the design. And finally, why did the builders erect these incredible structures? Are there, as many believe, secrets hidden in the very architecture of the pyramid itself, secrets that the builders wish to reveal to us, knowledge that a lost civilization could not entrust to tablet and chisel, or paper and pen, nor risk the corrosion of language and the spoken word, knowledge that could only safely weather the ravages of time if it was built into the architectural design and structure of the building itself, and if so, what is the nature of this secret? Many people are treating the discovery of the pyramid energy as a newfangled invention of the 20th century. Before the current craze for triangles in our lives, you might think no one had ever heard of a pyramid before. The fact is that pyramids have been known throughout history and appear in every civilization of the world. The pyramids of Egypt are the best known of all pyramids, enigmatic, silent remains of a time beyond history. But during the last 50 years, with the ability of airplanes to fly over uncharted areas, many new pyramid sightings have been reported. Many of these new pyramids have been legendary historically, but had never been seen by living man. Military pilots have spotted several of them during flight missions. Verification of their reports, however, has been impossible in most instances because of the hostile environment in which the pyramids were sited. Severe mountain passages and overgrown jungles ultimately block access to the locations which apparently at one time were easily accessible. One such sighting tells of a complex of mysterious pyramids enclosed within the ancient walled city of Xianfu, capital of the Chinese province of Shanxi. The nucleus of the complex is a single pyramid rising well over 1,000 feet high. This enormous structure, more than twice the height of the Great Pyramid of Cheops, is said to be surrounded by several smaller, flat-topped pyramids, all aligned true north. The pyramids of Shanxi are reported to be built from a mixture of hardened lime and clay, which is covered with colorfully decorated casing stones. There is no information regarding the time these structures were built. High in the Himalayan mountains, there is said to be a shining pyramid encased in polished stone or metal. Its shimmering capstone is believed to be an enormous crystal. And for many years, there were rumors of a group of pyramids standing in the high desert region of central Siberia. In 1970, Reports leaked out that Soviet planes had bombed this remote region, devastating the entire area and completely demolishing the pyramids. The purpose of the bombing raid, allegedly, was to destroy a flying saucer base, but there was no information released through the Soviet press. However, the existence of the pyramids and their subsequent disappearance has been reported by eyewitnesses, and at least that much of the rumor is considered accurate. The ruins of an ancient city now known as Angkor is buried deep in the jungles of Cambodia. Angkor's vanished people built splendid temples and enormous pyramids. The legend that comes down regarding the origin of this sacred city tells that it was built by giants, or by what Cambodians call Pra-Eun, the king of angels. Little else is known about the pyramids, except that they resemble the Egyptian pyramids in proportion and design. Europe also has its share of pyramids. A pyramid believed built by the Knights of Templar in the 12th century has been found in the south of France. A secret chamber, its walls covered with ancient astrological symbols, has been located far beneath ground level of the structure. The British have a 4,000-year-old stepped earth pyramid in Silbury Hill in Wiltshire. Nearly 1 million tons of earth, piled more than 150 feet high, was used to build this cone-shaped mound. Similar mounds used to cap ancient graves have been found all over Ireland. We will see later how the ancient structures of Stonehenge in England, while not pyramidal in shape, are nevertheless strongly related to the Great Pyramid of the Giza Desert. In America, the small town of Williams, Montana, boasts a series of miniature pyramids. These 3 feet tall, cone-shaped pyramids appear to be several thousands of years old and may be the final remnant of a lost civilization. In 1959, archaeologists from the University of Arizona located another small pyramid at Painted Rock Reservoir near Gila Bend. This flat-topped pyramid is believed to have been a religious site used by the American Indians over 1,000 years ago. The most famous American pyramid mound is presently under excavation at Collinsville, Illinois. This is the enormous earth pyramid at Cahokia Mound State Park. The Cahokia Pyramid has a base even larger than the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and when excavation is complete, it is estimated that it will be nearly 100 feet high. The pyramid is only part of a vast ruined city, completely surrounded by a great wall which may have been the center of a powerful, vanished Indian civilization. The Cahokians' influence radiated a substantial distance from its main city. Some of its colonies are believed to have been as far-flung as 1,000 miles from central headquarters, a civilization of the type otherwise unknown in the United States at any other time in its history before colonization. The Cahokian Pyramid itself is now believed to be the largest prehistoric structure in North America. Throughout Mexico and South America stand mysterious pyramids and walls of vast height and perfect structure. These structures are similar to the Egyptian pyramids, comparable because in many instances the giant blocks of stone are so closely fitted that a calling card cannot be inserted between them. All of the ancient civilizations of Mesoamerica built some form of pyramid structure. The Chaldean civilization of Peru, the Mayans of Mexico, and the Aztecs. As the numerous civilizations appeared and just as suddenly disappeared, they left behind ruins that show evidence of complex architecture and pyramids built from a highly sophisticated knowledge of astronomy and mathematics. The entire body of knowledge of these learned civilizations was ultimately destroyed by the Spanish colonization. All that remains of the once splendid cities are ruins. It is now believed by some archaeologists that the home of the ancient Mayan cities is the birthplace of the Americas and perhaps of world civilization. There are rumors that pyramids exist beneath the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, especially within the boundaries of the world-famous Bermuda Triangle. It is believed that if they can be located, these pyramids will establish beyond a doubt the existence of the lost continent of Atlantis. The only place in the world where pyramids have not yet been found are Australia and the Antarctic. But it's possible that earthquakes, ice flows, and the otherwise harsh environments of these areas have obscured existing structures, just as the jungles of Central and South America have hidden ancient ruins for centuries. Although pyramids similar in structure and design have been found all over the world, We still do not know how they were built and for what purpose. The question of their origin continues to baffle scientists in every generation. Constructed at different times in history by civilizations apparently unknown to each other, the structures are uniquely similar in their design and execution. Moreover, architecturally advanced pyramids appear in civilizations where other buildings show little sophistication. How were the pyramids, with their flamboyant display of mathematics and astronomy, ever built by unlearned societies? Equally as puzzling is the question of purpose. Why were the pyramids built? Did they serve a function apart from the beauty and vastness of their design? Traditional Egyptologists insist the pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs, and some evidence supports this theory, at least for some pyramids. But in many pyramids, including the Great Pyramid of Cheops, no tomb has ever been found. Archaeologists of South America are convinced that their pyramids were used as religious temples, and today some pyramidologists believe the structures were built as resonators, or storehouses of energy. They believe that within the pyramidal structure, frequencies radiated by the Earth itself join cosmic radiations to produce a third beat frequency, an energy different from the individual energy of either source. Others believe that if the mathematical design of the pyramid can ultimately be broken down, it will reveal the existence of a superior civilization that has vanished without a trace. There is also the idea that the inner pyramid structure represents the metaphysical development of man, and that we can find within its structure the path to spiritual evolution. As we do not know how or for what purpose the pyramids were built, neither do we know exactly who built them. There is a considerable body of evidence that shows the pyramids were not built by the civilization in which they were found. There is a theory that the key to pyramid building was held by the ancient nomadic tribe descended from Atlantis. This tribe preserved the knowledge of that lost continent, and as they traveled from place to place, putting down roots and quietly joining the communities in which they found themselves, they passed along, temporarily, the knowledge required to build the pyramids. A perhaps more fantastical theory is that the pyramids were built by beings from other planets, and there has been some fascinating evidence to support this possibility. Most archaeologists, however, cling to the idea that pyramids were built by the society in which they are located. But we will see some interesting evidence to show that this may have been impossible. One thing seems certain. The answer to the extraordinary pyramids and their mysterious builders lies in the Great Pyramid of the Giza Desert, also known as the Pyramid of Cheops. The first and last of all the seven wonders of the world stands only a short distance from the modern city of Cairo. The magnificent pyramid dominates a complex of structures, including three other enormous pyramids, several tombs, and the famed enigmatic Sphinx. Stretching along 70 miles of the west bank of the Nile, almost 100 pyramids of various sizes and designs can be found. The largest known pyramid in the world, Cheops, takes its name from the pharaoh who was the son and successor of Sennacherib. The second pyramid, known as Khephren, was named for the son of Cheops. The Great Pyramid is assumed to have been built during the reign of Cheops, approximately 2500 BC, because high on an inside wall is a small hieroglyphic spelling out his name. This is the only evidence that Cheops had anything to do with the pyramid. His tomb was not discovered there, nor are there drawings or carvings inside the pyramid depicting his life. But there is a much larger body of evidence that indicates that the pyramid was standing long before the reign of Cheops, and that the pharaoh actually took his name, meaning glorious light, from the pyramid, instead of the other way around. The evidence is supported by the fact that the second pyramid, supposedly built only a few years later, shows none of the perfection of design and execution seen in the Great Pyramid, nor do any of the other pyramids in the valley. Theorists have considered that the pyramid may actually have been built by an ancient nomadic tribe as long as 70,000 years ago. The glorious structure dominated the Nile Valley throughout the centuries. Cheops was believed to have done some structural repair on the pyramid, and, ensuring his place in history forever, adopted the name for his own. Also, since Cheops' reign lasted only 23 years, It is quite unbelievable that he could have built the pyramid in that short period of time. Consider the Mammoth Undertaking. The Great Pyramid stands as high as a 40-story skyscraper, rising from a base that is limestone. Blocks were cut from quarries, roughly dressed, and fitted together like a child's jigsaw puzzle. All the mammoth blocks of different sizes carefully fitted together to achieve the overall design. At one time, the outside of the pyramid was encased in polished white Tura limestone. The giant pyramid reflected both the sun and the moon as it guarded the vast, lush valley of the Nile. It is believed that these highly polished casing stones were quarried at some distance from the building site and were, in some manner, transported across the Nile to the pyramid. Each casing stone was 100 inches thick and weighed up to 15 tons. When put into place, each block was so precisely matched that only a mere hair's breadth of space remained between them. This jewel-like precision is unmatched in any other pyramid. As civilizations came and went, and the fertile valley basin turned to desert, the casing stones were ripped from the surface of the pyramid and used to build other structures. Yet several casing stones at the base of the pyramid were covered with sand and debris and were left untouched. Today it can be seen that less than a 50th of an inch separates the gigantic polished blocks. The exact height of the pyramid, because its apex or capstone is missing. Various legends have come down to us of its composition. Some say that the capstone was of solid gold, others that it was a glistening crystal that radiated energy into space, and still others believe it was highly polished granite. If Cheops actually built the pyramid, he undoubtedly built it as a tomb and monument for himself, yet Cheops' tomb has never been found. Inside the main chamber of the Great Pyramid, there is a single, empty red granite sarcophagus without a lid. No hieroglyphic inscriptions adorn it. No outer casing bearing the likeness of Cheops covers it. Nothing. Adding to the mystery are two ventilation passages leading from the chamber to the surface of the pyramid. If this was a tomb, why was it ventilated? Another interesting point is that the sarcophagus itself was too large to pass through the gallery passage from the pyramid entrance into the chamber. It is exactly 1 inch larger than the passageway. How did the sarcophagus get inside the pyramid? Was it put in place and the chamber built around it, or was it built inside the chamber after the pyramid was erected? Further evidence that the pyramid was not a tomb for Cheops is the fact that the sarcophagus and its chamber are located 1/3 of the way up the inner pyramid, above ground level. It was the practice of the Egyptians to bury their dead below the ground. Above ground level was representative of life. If it seems inconceivable that the Great Pyramid was a tomb, then what was its intention? What modern man has learned is truly incredible. The Great Pyramid incorporates within its structure many of the mysteries of the universe. Many mathematical and astronomical discoveries, believed discovered only in modern times, are present within its granite blocks. The primary measurement in the structure is the pyramidal, or the polar diameter inch, within a hair of the modern British inch. The rest of the world runs on the metric system, but the British cling to their inch for no apparent reason. There's no record of how the measurement for the inch came about. It has always been a value system used exclusively by British, appearing spontaneously without logical or historical reference. Since the capstone of the pyramid is missing, its precise height at the time it was built can only be estimated, but the guess is based on reliable data. The height of the pyramid today is 450 feet, but it is believed that the original height was 484 feet 5 inches. When this figure is made the radius of a circle, the circumference of the circle is 36,524.2 polar diameter inches. When divided by 100, the quotient equals the exact number of days in a year. This year circle also is found in the structures at Stonehenge. When the inner measurement of the ancient British monument is made the diameter of a circle, its circumference also measures the number of days in a solar year. The polar diameter inch, or PD inch, is precisely 1/500,000,000th the distance from the North Pole to the South Pole through the center of the Earth. This unit of measure is used continuously throughout the Great Pyramid. The designer of the pyramid calculated the Earth's diameter to be 7,899.31 miles. Satellites today calculate the diameter at 7,899.8. The minor difference could easily be explained by ice added to the South Pole since the pyramid builders first calculated the distance. These are only a few of the phenomenal mathematics of the pyramid, and divide it by twice its height, the result is pi. Pi is used repeatedly throughout the pyramid, and the height of the pyramid, multiplied by 1 million, is the distance from the Earth to the Sun. The circumference of the Earth also is accurately defined within the pyramid, and we have always assumed that the Egyptians didn't even know the world was round. It becomes clear that the pyramid was not built as a mere monument to an egotistical pharaoh, but as a genuine storehouse of knowledge. The evidence of pi is illustrated over and over again within the structure, as well as the principle of the golden mean, always believed discovered by the Greeks. The Greeks, however, never understood the mathematical principle behind the golden mean, only that it was proportionately pleasing to the eye. The pyramid includes the principle of the triangle, the pentagon, and the pentagram, all of which reveal the golden mean. The golden mean divides lines into the perfect proportion of 0.618034 to 1. It is no accident that this proportion is revealed in all great art and architecture. Knowledge of the golden mean was lost when the ancient Greek civilization fell, and was not rediscovered until the Renaissance, when Leonardo da Vinci renamed it the divine proportion. Basil Stewart, author of History of the Great Pyramid, put it this way, quote, "The Great Pyramid was built to monumentalize the geometry of the circle, thereby introducing the incommensurable factor denoting the relationship between diameter and circumference, expressed usually as 3.14159, but can be carried to hundreds of decimals without reaching finality. This basis of the year circle was utilized to represent the number of days in the year, another incommensurable number, and all the other orbital values of the Earth, its distance from the Sun, the value of precession, and other astronomical data," unquote. Since the calendar year can be measured within the Great Pyramid, it has also been possible to correlate exact dates at given points within the structure, using 1 inch to equal 1 day. It is believed that the pyramid accurately predicts the birth of Moses, the birth and death of Christ, and the advent and end of the First World War. Another mathematical mystery is the alignment of the pyramid. All known pyramids are aligned on a north-south axis. The Great Pyramid is so accurately aligned that it is located only 4 minutes west of true north, an almost impossibly accurate alignment. Furthermore, this fraction of misalignment is believed due not to error, but to continental drift, which has occurred over the centuries, giving the pyramid a slight, almost imperceptible twist off true north. All the pyramids of the Giza Desert show this minor twist. This slight shift also may be accounted for by a series of earthquakes, which are known to have taken place in North Africa at approximately 908 BC. Is the current pyramid craze a revitalization of interest in ancient history that occurs periodically around the world, or is it a part of the pyramid's mysterious design? Some believe that the secret of the pyramid was deliberately hidden from civilizations that followed so that it could reappear at a given moment in history when it was most needed and most likely to be well received. Indeed, it takes a scientifically sophisticated society to understand the mathematics embodied in the pyramid. Through the centuries, many countries and many leaders, including Napoleon, have tried to penetrate the walls and the inner secret of the pyramid. All have believed that the interior system, if it could be discovered, would reveal not only treasure, but also the knowledge of why and how the pyramid was built. Unable to find an entrance on any of the solid faces of the structure, the Arabs, under the leadership of Al-Mamun, forced the first passage to the interior system of the pyramid in the year 820. Al-Mamun did discover the 2 chambers now known as the Queen's and King's chambers, but found no treasure, no maps, and no tomb. It appeared that the entire pyramid was built simply to hold the single empty sarcophagus found in the king's chamber. It would be 400 years before the pyramid would be disturbed again, and then it was stripped of its exquisite casing stones to rebuild the new capital city of El Cahokia. Debris was piled so high from the demolition that the entrance forced by Al-Mamun was blocked, but the bare face of the north side of the pyramid revealed two enormous transoms protecting the original entrance. Looking at the diagram in the text, you will see that the actual entrance of the interior system of the pyramid is at a height of about 55 feet above ground level on the north face. The interior has been precisely described by Dr. I.S. Edwards in his text, The Pyramids of Egypt. While Dr. Edwards gives the precise details of the mathematical perfect interior, he nevertheless considers it an accident rather than a design. He does not tell us, however, how the pyramid builders could have accidentally monumentalized the mathematical pi, both inside and outside of the structure, not once, but dozens of times. From the entrance, a passage 3 feet 5 inches wide and 3 feet 11 inches high descends on a slope of exactly 26.2 degrees. This is point C in your text. The corridor descends first through the core of the pyramid, then continues through solid rock for a total of 345 feet, where it levels out for another 29 feet, and finally ends in a cul-de-sac beneath the pyramid. Here there is a rough chamber, point D, measuring 11 feet 6 inches high, 46 feet long, and 27 feet 1 inch wide. In the south wall of this chamber, there is an opening to a blind passage, suggesting another chamber, but none exists. In the 5th century B.C., Herodotus visited Egypt and was told that beneath the Great Pyramid were vaults built on a subterranean island surrounded by water, and on this island the body of Cheops was said to repose. This rumor has been offered as the purpose for the Sphinx, which seems to stand guard before the pyramid. It is believed to cover a secret underground passage to the island, but no such passage or island has ever been found. The other, more usual theory is that the mysterious underground chamber was a decoy to convince grave robbers that no treasure would be found in the pyramid. The only way out of the underground chamber is back the way you came. While Al-Mamun and his men were boring their way through the face of the pyramid, a limestone slab in the roof of the descending passage collapsed, revealing another passage above it. This proved to be the ascending chamber, leading to the Queen's and King's chamber. Its entrance is located about 60 feet into the descending passage, point E on your diagram. The connecting passage between the descending and ascending passageways is blocked by 3 enormous granite plugs, placed one behind the other, point F. But the gap left by the dislodged slab allowed Al-Mamun to circumvent the plugs by cutting a passage through the softer limestone in the west wall above the uppermost plug, and thereby gaining access to the ascending passage. The plugs blocking the passage to the ascending corridor are another of the major mysteries of the pyramid. They fit tightly into both the upper and lower end of the passage, and it cannot be determined how they were maneuvered into place. To this day, the plugs remain in their original position, a mute testimonial to the genius of the pyramid's architect. The ascending passageway corresponds perfectly in width and height to the descending corridor. It is approximately 129 feet long, and its upward slope is exactly 26.2 degrees. At the top of the ascending passage, more limestone slabs were removed, revealing a horizontal passage leading to the Queen's chamber, point G on your diagram. This gap also revealed the well shaft, which tunnels through the pyramid and breaks into the descending corridor, point H. The Queen's chamber lies midway between the north and south sides of the pyramid, directly under the apex. This chamber also is rough-hewn and appears unfinished. It measures 17 feet 2 inches wide by 18 feet 10 inches long, with a pointed roof rising 20 feet 5 inches. A niche big enough to hold a life-size statue is cut into the east wall, but it is empty. The Queen's chamber has 2 shafts, one on the north wall and the other on the south, leading nowhere. Although some claim these must have been ventilating shafts, they do not reach the outer surface of the pyramid. And once again, the common theory is that the Queen's Chamber is yet another decoy to keep robbers away from the King's Chamber. Back to the Queen's horizontal passage to the top of the ascending corridor, we can see the pyramid's most celebrated architectural work. This is the Grand Gallery, point I on the diagram, a continuance of the ascending passage. The Grand Gallery is 153 feet long, and its walls are of polished limestone, reaching a height of 28 feet. At 7.5-foot intervals up the wall, it projects inwards about 3 inches beyond the course on which it rests, forming a vaulting effect. Catwalks 2 feet high and 1 3/4 feet wide run along the entire length of the gallery, with a passage of 3.5 feet wide between them. The gallery was constructed on a slope of 26.2 degrees, and it was designed so that roofing slabs are each laid at a slightly steeper angle than the gradient of the gallery, so that no stone can press on the one below, and causing each stone to be individually held up by the side wall. This kind of unique design has no parallel in ancient architecture. At the upper end of the gallery, a 3 feet high step gives access to a narrow, low passage, less than 4 feet square, point J. This tiny polished limestone passage gives way to a sort of antechamber of polished red granite. This is the entrance into the King's Chamber, point K on your diagram. This beautiful large chamber is built completely of polished red granite. It measures 17 feet 2 inches wide and 34 feet 4 inches long, and is 19 feet 1 inch high. In the north and south walls there are shafts which apparently at one time penetrated through the core of the pyramid and reached the outer surface. Near the west wall, the empty rectangular granite sarcophagus stands. Egyptologists still insist that this sarcophagus once held a wooden coffin containing the king's body. The most intriguing architectural feature in history is found in the roof of the King's Chamber. Its flat ceiling of 9 limestone slabs weighs 400 tons. 3 more identical ceilings are on top of this roof, separated by compartments, and a 5th ceiling above these is pointed. It is believed that this unique roof design was constructed to ensure the chamber against the overwhelming weight of the pyramid superstructure, as well as the forces of nature. Today, each of the massive slabs in the ceiling shows cracks probably made by earthquakes, and yet not one has collapsed. The current scholarly view is that the interior system of the Great Pyramid underwent transformation during its construction as the builders changed their minds. But in light of all the pyramid's outstanding geometry, this seems improbable. The pyramid was designed to mathematical perfection, and it is entirely illogical that any of the interior was formed by second thoughts or guesswork, or that once on the course of construction the builders could simply alter their course and change the gigantic blocks around at will. The interior as well as the exterior of the pyramid is so mathematically precise that it must have been predetermined by the designer. It truly bothers to envision the inner precision the pyramid must have in order to obtain its external measurements. Even to figure the internal structure and design on paper takes a master mathematician. But to express that design in enormous granite blocks weighing upwards of 70 tons each is impossible to conceive. But if the interior design of the pyramid is too perfect to have been accidental, how does one account for the blind passageways and unfinished chambers? A unique and fascinating theory has been put forth by investigator Tom Valentine, author of The Great Pyramid. Valentine, along with several other researchers, believes that there is substantial evidence that the interior system of the pyramid has a metaphysical purpose. Valentine links the interior of the pyramid with what is probably the oldest recorded literature in existence, the Egyptian Book of the Dead, or Book of the Master. The Book of the Master was discovered during the reign of Hesepti, about 4000 BC, but there is no certain knowledge of when it was originally composed. Man's spiritual evolution through a series of incarnations is described within the book, and its story is perfectly translated within the stone passages of the Great Pyramid. The Book of the Master tells us that as a child takes his first breath in his incarnation, he loses all conscious memory of his previous lifetime. As he descends into life, the horizon of heaven narrows, and he is submerged in darkness. Most individuals, or IGOS, travel this downward path until we reach a low point, where we may choose to elevate ourselves and return to the Creator. But even though we desire to rise higher, the gate of ascent is blocked. Elevation of character is difficult. It is easier to drift back down along the descending slope, remaining in the dark. Those spirits not yet ready to struggle upward will continue the descent into darkness until they reach the Subterranean Chamber, called the Chamber of Upside-Downness, or the Chamber of Chaos. There are false paths pointing the way out, but these passages lead nowhere. There's no choice for the individual except to die in darkness or to climb all the way back up to the gate of ascent. If the person dies in the chamber, he will be incarnated over and over again until he eventually is able to choose the upward passage, but the choice must be his own. This is what is recorded in the Egyptian Book of the Master. And in the Great Pyramid, Valentine points out that we will find a precise allegory in stone. If you recall, about 60 feet down from the entrance we find the ascending passage leading upward, but the entrance to the upward passage is plugged with those 3 giant blocks. When you reach the granite plugs, you continue downward until you finally reach the end, the subterranean chamber. This dark chamber has a smooth ceiling and a rough-hewn floor. It's upside down, corresponding perfectly to the Chamber of Chaos in the Book of the Master. As we have noted, there are corridors that seem to lead out of the chamber, but they are all dead ends. A chamber built upside down with passages to nowhere. In the Book of the Master, the ego can choose to strive for human perfection, motivated by a divine discontentment. He follows this inner urging back to the gate of ascent and finds himself in the Hall of Truth. He is still in darkness, but feels that he is on the right path. But it is not easy, and he continues to make a great effort. The individual works his way upward along the Hall of Truth and Darkness until he reaches a plateau, and he enters the Chamber of Second Birth. Here he can take stock of all he has learned during his ascent. There is an awareness of the meaning of your struggle, and a new resolve to continue. This awareness may be called cosmic consciousness. The ego now returns to the ascending passage and emerges suddenly into the Hall of Truth in light. Correspondingly, in the Great Pyramid, once past the granite plugs, you still must practically crawl through the narrow ascending passage until it levels off at the Queen's Chamber, a moment for pause and reflection. This is the equivalent of the Chamber of the Second Birth. When you re-enter the ascending passage, you soon find yourself in the Grand Gallery, perhaps the most magnificent piece of architecture in the world. Every phrase for the chambers or passages is translated directly from the Book of the Master. Clearly, each fits the interior system of the Great Pyramid perfectly. As the growing human spirit approaches the upper end of the Hall of Truth and Light, he must climb a great step before he can stand on a level floor. He is now brinking on the pinnacle of his evolution. Once he passes into this chamber, he need never be incarnated to the physical level again. But this final step has 3 parts, called the Triple Veil. The first part represents inner conflict, the second is called Truce in Chaos, and the third is humility. How are these 3 final steps represented in the pyramid? At the upper end of the Grand Gallery is a great step of limestone. You climb up onto it, and you are standing on the floor level of the king's chamber. But to enter the chamber, you must first stoop down and crawl into the small antechamber, certainly a moment of conflict after leaving the glorious Grand Gallery. When you stand up inside the small antechamber, you have time to reflect on your passage. You are standing directly above the subterranean chamber of chaos, hundreds of feet below. Ahead lies the third veil, and once again you are forced almost to your knees to enter.
Beyond this final passage lies the King's Chamber, or, as the Book of the Master calls it, the Hall of Judgment, the chamber of the open tomb. At the far end of the chamber stands the empty sarcophagus, signifying that death does not exist. The tomb is open, and life is eternal. Every key portion of this beautiful philosophy in the ancient Book of the Master is reproduced in stone within the Great Pyramid. Even more remarkable, as Tom Valentine points out, is that this passage of the human spirit is paralleled in the development of civilization over the past 6,000 years. So it is entirely possible that the builders of the pyramid had more than one message to deliver to the world, one for benefit of the mind of man, the other for his eternal spirit. What has stirred the recent interest in pyramid energy? Some people believe that it was inherent in the design of the pyramid itself, that at a given time the world would awaken to the power of the pyramid and be able to make use of its mysterious energy. In other words, the designers forecast that there would be a time in history when a new source of energy would be required for civilization to continue to flourish, and that the development of pyramid awareness coincides with this forecast. This, of course, may or may not be true, but it is certainly a point to ponder as the world's energy sources diminish rapidly with each succeeding day. We know, however, that the current interest in pyramids seems to have been initiated by the publication in 1970 of a book called Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain, written by Sheila Ostrander and Lynn Schroeder. In this large text, a small chapter is devoted to a story of a man named Antoine Bouvet, and it is this seemingly trivial story that captured the attention and imagination of people all over the world and led to the rejuvenation of interest in pyramid power. Sometime in the late 1930s, Monsieur Bouvet visited the Great Pyramid of Cheops and noticed a curious phenomenon. A trash basket inside the entrance to the King's Chamber held the bodies of several small rodents and a few dead cats. Small animals would wander into the pyramid and get lost there, eventually starving to death. In those days, the caretakers of the pyramid would collect the bodies in trash baskets and dispose of them when the basket was full. The peculiar phenomenon that Bouvet noticed was that the bodies of the animals lying in the highly humid interior of the King's Chamber were completely mummified. The immediate question that occurred to Bouvet was, how could the bodies be dehydrated in such moist air? Bouvet had had a great deal of experience with various mysterious phenomenon, being a frequent lecturer on divining rods and pendulums. Intrigued by the possibility of a new kind of energy force, he returned home and constructed a small-scale model of the Great Pyramid. Following the exact design, he built a platform 1/3 of the way up from ground level. For his initial experiment, he placed a dead cat on the platform, and within a short time, the cat was completely mummified. Bouvet followed this with several other experiments, using many different kinds of organic matter, including eggs and meat, and achieving the same results. Bouvet lectured on his experiments and published a small booklet on his findings. This publication attracted the attention of Karl Dreubal, a retired Czech radio engineer, and it is with Karl Dreubal that pyramid power became world famous. Dreubal conducted some experiments of his own, using scale models of cardboard. His pyramids were of various shapes, primarily patterned after the Great Pyramid, and he was able to achieve similar success with mummification of organic matter. He conducted his experiments along scientific lines of inquiry, and he writes, quote, "I was at last, as a radio technician, forced to admit that there is something very strange in the mummification phenomenon. Some energy must evidently be concentrated in the pyramid model," unquote. Seeking the nature of the peculiar form of energy, Dreubal decided to place a new razor blade inside his cardboard pyramid model. He assumed that the edge of the blade would be blunted, showing some concentrated force acting within the pyramid. "Just the contrary occurred," he wrote, "and when I had shaved myself comfortably 50 times, I was forced to admit that there was something very wrong in my supposition." Drubal was eventually able to achieve as many as 200 shaves with a single razor blade, using his pyramid model as a regenerator. In the last 25 years, he has used a total of 68 blades. Drubal eventually was granted a Czech patent for his pyramid, which he calls the Cheops Pyramid Razor Blade Sharpener. When it comes to explaining the particular kind of energy found in the pyramid, investigators are reduced to complex technological language. Basically, most investigators agree that there is indeed a kind of energy emanating from the pyramid, but are at a loss to define it exactly. For example, in the 1960s, a team headed by Dr. Luis Alvarez, the 1968 Nobel Prize winner for physics, tried to record the passage of cosmic rays through the second pyramid of Kefren. Kefren was chosen for the experiment because Dr. Alvarez believed that this important pyramid would be likely to have an interior system of passages and chambers as yet undiscovered. Kefren has two entrances on its north side, with two slightly descending passages that lead to a subterranean vault directly beneath the of solid rock has no ventilating shafts. But near its west wall stands a magnificent polished granite sarcophagus sunk into the floor. When archaeologists first entered this chamber in 1818, they found the lid of the sarcophagus broken in two. No mummy was ever found. Dr. Alvarez and his team believed that the underground chamber might be a decoy for thieves, and that hidden chambers were still undiscovered within Kefren. The idea for their experiment was based on the fact that cosmic rays lose power as they encounter and pass through objects. The scientists placed what they call a spark chamber in the underground chamber of the pyramid and set about monitoring the cosmic rays which penetrated the walls of the pyramid. If there were other chambers or passageways within the pyramid, the cosmic rays would pass through these voids faster than they would pass through solid rock. This variation in frequency would be recorded by the spark chamber and would indicate the presence of hidden passages within the pyramid. This fascinating operation cost several $100,000 to conduct and involved 12 United States and United Arab Republic agencies, including the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission and the Smithsonian Institution. Every cosmic ray penetrating the face of the pyramid was electronically recorded and stored on magnetic tape. The tapes were then analyzed by a computer which could calculate the precise place each ray penetrated the surface. The scientists measured 2 million cosmic ray trajectories, and the initial results, analyzed by the computer at Cairo, looked extremely promising. But as the tapes were reread, different patterns emerged. With each subsequent reading, the computer gave a different evaluation until all the data was a mass of confusion. Dr. Alvarez and one of his assistants returned to the United States to reevaluate the tapes on the computers at Berkeley. But the head of the Cairo group, Dr. Amir Gonaid, continued to pore over the results in Egypt. In a now famous statement to the London Times, Dr. Gonaid said, "This is scientifically impossible." He explained that the earlier, promising recordings had turned into a jumble of meaningless symbols. Either the geometry of the pyramid is in substantial error, he said, which would affect our readings, or there is a mystery which is beyond explanation. Call it what you will, occultism, the curse of the pharaohs, sorcery, or magic. There is some force that defies the laws of science at work in the pyramid. Physicist Dr. G. Patrick Flanagan, a dedicated scientist who now spends most of his time studying pyramids, believes the mysterious power of pyramid energy lies in microwaves, a form of electromagnetic radiation. These short wavelengths consist of magnetic and electrical energy produced by an acceleration of electrical charges. Dr. Flanagan suggests that the pyramid shape is a resonator for these microwave signals. He explained in an interview with Science Digest that, quote, "Pyramids and cone structures are the most effective resonators for randomly polarized microwave signals that can be produced," unquote. If you visualize a cone, you will see that it is a perfectly smooth surface. It is, in effect, a pyramid without angles. A pyramid, as Dr. Flanagan says, with an infinite number of sides. As an explanation for the calming effect many people experience while sitting inside a pyramid, Dr. Flanagan notes that low-density microwaves have been used to increase alpha rhythms. This coincides, he says, with the results of alpha rhythms being doubled or triple in amplitude when the subjects were placed inside a pyramid. Does the energy of the pyramid come from the inside or the outside? Apparently, the exterior energy generated from the pyramid is as dynamic as the interior effect. It was a British inventor, Sir William Siemens, who first noticed that a static charge is generated from the outside of the pyramid. While Siemens stood on the apex of the Great Pyramid, he raised his arms and felt a prickling sensation and heard a ringing sound. Friends accompanying him heard a distinct crackling sound whenever he raised his hands. Then, when Siemens drank from his flask, he felt a shock whenever the bottle touched his lips. He was so intrigued that he wrapped a wet newspaper around the empty bottle, converting it into a makeshift Leyden jar, or electricity accumulator. He held the bottle high over his head, and it became so charged with electricity that it actually gave off sparks. Siemens accidentally has been able to convert the technique of high-voltage photography developed by the Russian inventor Kirlian. Flanagan has actually photographed electrical energy emanating from this. The pyramid also accumulates and modifies energy on the inside. When energy is focused within any object, whether it is hollow or solid, it acts as a resonating cavity. The pyramid then may function as a huge resonator, focusing cosmic energy like a giant lens. This concentrated energy would affect the molecular structure of any object within its path. The most fascinating aspect of pyramid power, whatever its nature and source, is that its most profound effects are demonstrated when the individual involved believes that they exist. For example, if you do not believe a pyramid has an energy force, it will not produce its special effects. You can place one house plant inside a pyramid tent and leave another house plant outside the tent. The plant inside will do no better than the one outside, and sometimes the plant inside the pyramid will do even worse. If, on the other hand, you believe in pyramid energy and conduct the identical experiment, the plant inside the pyramid will thrive. Why? Did you accomplish the successful experiment with your mind alone, or did the pyramid do it for you? Dr. Flanagan makes this comment, quote, "The energy content in a pyramid varies according to the time of day, season, weather, phases of the moon, and the polarity and quantity of ions in the surrounding atmosphere. The failure and successes of pyramid model experiments depend on a complex arrangement of environmental factors, and to some extent they can be affected by the mind." Unquote. Science has finally accepted that we are only beginning to know the capacities of the human mind. We know even less about life force, but we've come a long way from the days when we denied that such a thing existed. Wilhelm Reich insisted that there was a special kind of energy, a life force, that every living thing possessed. He called it argon. But Wilhelm Reich was scoffed at and imprisoned. His books were burned, and he finally died in jail. Today we find a peculiar correlation between the energy of the pyramid and the energy of life. When we put the two together, our own individual life force, in collaboration with the energy created within the pyramid resonator, we have a dynamic and powerful influence. The potential uses for pyramid energy are only beginning to be explored. Model replicas of pyramids have been found excellent storehouses for foodstuffs ranging from milk to bananas to meat. In one experiment, a loaf of bread made without preservatives was kept in a pyramid-shaped bread box. 8 weeks later, it was still soft and fresh. The bread box was made of cardboard covered with aluminum. It was open along the bottom so that air could circulate through the box. A California researcher named Vern Cameron conducted several important experiments on the preservative powers of the pyramid. In one experiment with a small replica pyramid, he preserved 2 ounces of raw pork. The pyramid was placed in his highly humid bathroom, and within 6 days the pork was completely mummified. And after several months of storage, the pork was still perfectly edible. In a similar experiment, Cameron used chunks of watermelon inside the pyramid. The watermelon dehydrated within a few days, but remained perfectly edible. Home experimenters have also reported that coffee has a less bitter taste when stored in a pyramid, and that wine and fruit juices improve in taste. Cigars, cigarettes, and pipe tobacco tend to become milder if kept in a pyramid. And it has also been reported that tarnished jewelry, coins, and silver have become polished when left inside a pyramid. The more important question, however, is what is the potential of pyramid energy on a larger scale? It's becoming quite clear that as the world's available supply of fuel diminishes, new sources of power must be sought. There have been suggestions that pyramids could be used for electrical power supply, perhaps in the form of generators operating from the tremendous heat energy accumulated inside the structures. Still another theory is that a pyramid could become magnetically charged so that it could produce electrical power. In terms of agriculture, farm experiments are currently being conducted on a large scale. Seeds and seedlings, for example, are being grown in pyramid greenhouses before being transplanted into fields. Water tanks used for irrigation also are being built in the shape of pyramids. The water travels from its source into the pyramid tank, is stored there, and then is released into the irrigation canals. It has also been reported that polluted water placed inside a model pyramid becomes purified within a few days. In the areas of health and medicine, pyramid energy seems to offer yet another outstanding contribution. Some investigators have reported that burns, cuts, and abrasions heal faster when exposed to the interior of a pyramid. Various reports have come in from people receiving relief from arthritis and rheumatism after spending time inside a pyramid, and others that tell of beneficial effect on migraine headaches and toothaches. By far the most remarkable report comes from psychic healer Thomas Sears of Cranston, Rhode Island. Mr. Sears treated a terminally ill cancer patient with pyramid power. He explained that the pyramid builds energy from its 4 right angles and concentrates it in its apex, giving off healing waves. The patient had a large malignant breast tumor that was inoperable. The cancer had spread into her armpit and surrounding lymph nodes, and her white blood cell count was so low that surgery was considered impossible. After several treatments by Mr. Sears, in which he placed 15 small pyramids near her, and after spending an hour daily under a pyramid tent, the patient's white cell count rose sufficiently for her surgeon to operate and remove all of the cancer. Her doctor issued a statement in which he said, quote, "No drug or surgical procedure could have achieved the strengthening of her blood, which was critical to her survival. She probably would have died without it," unquote. Mr. Sears also points out the peculiar collaboration between pyramid energy and human life force. In addition to using the healing energy generated by the pyramids, he says, "I focus on the person my own psychic energy, the energy that every one of us has naturally and often just wastes without knowing it." These reports of the unique healing properties of pyramid energy have led some researchers to speculate that hospitals built in the shape of pyramids would help patients get well faster. It is believed that certain spots inside the pyramid have a vibratory rate which corresponds to particular organs of the body. Thus, a heart patient might sit in one part of a pyramid to receive its benefit, while a patient recovering from abdominal surgery would benefit more in another location. Pyramid energy also seems to have healing properties which are beneficial to the mind as well as the body. Time spent meditating inside a pyramid seems to increase energy for some people and has a calming effect on others. Of all the home-style pyramid experiments going on around the world, there apparently have been no negative reactions reported. Dr. Flanagan told Science Digest that he had received letters from doctors, physicists, and chemists, all asking for further information. Perhaps as these documented scientific experiments are reported, we will finally begin to recognize the real potential of pyramid energy. The best way to discover the quality of pyramid power is to test it for yourself. There are several kinds of pyramids and pyramid tents on the market today, and by following the simple directions in the accompanying text, you can even make your own. You can build a giant pyramid in your backyard, or a miniature cardboard model to put under your bed. The critical factors involved in building your pyramid are that it be aligned on a north-south axis and that it be placed in a location distant from radios, television, or other electrical equipment. Many people all over the world are enjoying the benefits of pyramid power, and its application is so simple that you should try it for yourself.